What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now Plus. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to review Thor, Love, and Thunder. Now, my opinion on this movie is that it's an okay movie. I liked several parts of it. I also didn't like, and I think that's obviously important when you say, the movie's just okay. I liked some parts. I thought some elements of this movie were actually extremely good, and I think the movie was held back by a lot of other things. In terms of, recommend, don't recommend. I mean, if you liked Ragnarok, I think you'll be fine here. I think Ragnarok is a much better movie overall, in all elements than this one. But, maybe a couple of things are actually better in this one. But it's, I would say Ragnarok is definitely better. But, some people ask me for, scores or a recommendation. Would you go see it? I don't give scores. I kind of just talk about it, and you can decide where I land. But in terms of, should you see it? If you liked Ragnarok, I think this movie is fine. So let's go into some of the specific elements. Let's start with the good, because there is, again, some really good in this movie. And let's start with the best good in Christian Bale. Christian Bale was phenomenal in this movie. We heard a lot of talk leading into this movie that this was the best Marvel villain, yada, yada, yada. And we've heard that, it seems like every other Marvel movie, they say that the villain is going to be the most deep or the most complex or just the best. He was actually insanely good. Now, I think a lot of that, the writing, I think, was actually pretty darn solid with him, but I think really just his performance, just how he portrayed Gore was phenomenal. Very, very creepy at times, but you could understand where he's coming from. His arc that he went on throughout the movie. I didn't like one element of him, and I don't think it's a spoiler. He remained rather stagnant for most of the movie. He was in one location for 75% of the film. I didn't like that because he kind of did some stuff in the beginning, then he retired to one location, and then he did the end. And that was it. That was the entire movie. That's more of an issue with the movie in general, because it wasn't just him that had kind of jumping location problems. That was everybody. That was the entire film. But I thought, when it was left to Christian Bale to do whatever he's going to do, he nailed. I loved it. I really, really did love his performance. There's just a high caliber acting you get from him that you don't always get from really, I'd say almost anybody. I mean, he's a top tier actor, so I really like that. I really liked a lot of the action scenes. I thought the action scenes were pretty darn good. Again, not to get too much into a spoiler territory, but when it was, Gore versus other people, let's say, I thought it was really good. Once the color shading, you could see from the trailer. So let's just say when things were black and white in this movie, they were extremely good. The black and white scenes were the best scenes in the entire film, in my opinion. Okay, so I thought that was good. The comedy, and this is a pro and con. Now we're starting to get into kind of in the middling territory. The comedy was good at times. There were some really funny scenes. I laughed literally out loud. Other people laughed out loud. I mean, there were some really good moments. You know what? Let's leave it there, because we'll talk about the con of the comedy, later, because there is issues with the comedy. But when it hits, it was very good. Again, like a Ragnarok, right? You go in to enjoy yourself, whatever. And the comedy, I do think, worked in that regard. I'd say probably a good amount, maybe not an okay amount. I think more of the comedy hit than it missed. But again, it was other things with the comedy that I thought were kind of the issue. And then the final thing that I would say is probably a really big positive is some of the characters. I thought something like a Valkyrie was pretty good. She was pushed aside majorly in this film, for as much as Tessa Thompson talked on the red carpet and stuff about her character and where this Thor movie is going and all this stuff. She wasn't in it all that much, so that's one, but she was good when she was. Thor, I thought, was really good. I loved having the Guardians in it. Again, you can't talk too much about it for spoilers, but the Guardians in their very limited capacity were fun. They were fine to be in the film. And then Thor himself, Chris Hemsworth, let's say that. He was awesome. And that's kind of what you expect, right? He's still that version that, they switched over. He kind of started with that, right, in the Avengers films, but it's the same Thor you got in Ragnarok, right? There is emotion there. There are some really good scenes with him. And then there's a lot of comedy, a lot of, goofiness kind of stuff. So that's what you get. Now, in terms of the negatives, again, I would say for every positive, there's probably a negative. Let's start with a glaring one, and this is not going to, obviously, this entire review is, in case you guys didn't know, it's my opinion. So if you don't agree with it, that just means you don't think the exact same way as me, which is fine, okay? And I like to remind people of that. I don't like Natalie Portman. I've never liked Natalie Portman. I've always actually been on the camp that, she's awful. in the Star Wars prequels. And I really don't like to give her that many excuses for it. And I don't really, of course, maybe she's a little bit better in other films than she was as Padme, but I've never been a fan of her, and she wasn't good here. I fully believe she wasn't good here. She's whether or not you want to go after her actual acting ability, I would say the words, like the phrase, she was trying too hard. There were a lot of moments in this movie because they were trying to give her a lot of comedic scenes, and I just don't think comedy is like her thing at all, like literally at all. So she's trying to force comedy. And again, I mean, maybe it's the writing. Maybe the comedy of that, particular line isn't good. That's very possible. But also just like, maybe, I don't know, your emotion or the way you kind of emote or, I don't know, your personality, the kind of that energy you give off. I feel like that can kind of save bad jokes, right? Chris Hemsworth actually does that somewhat often in these movies. Like, if the joke doesn't land, he's still like, he believes in it, right? It feels like the character believes in it. Natalie Portman, no, it doesn't feel like that, right? If a joke doesn't land, it's like, were they letting her improvise? And that's what she came up with, and everybody was kind of cringing. And Taika was like, well, I guess we're going to go with that one, Natalie. That was good. Like, I don't know. I really don't know. But I don't think she was good at all. There were a couple good scenes with her. Mainly any scene she was in with Chris Hemsworth. Those were pretty solid scenes. And there were some emotional scenes. I think I can think of like 2 or 3 in particular. Fine. But overall, I mean, I've never liked her as a character. I don't really like Natalie Portman. And I think she honestly, just in my opinion, I think she held the movie back really, really badly. And several times I think she held the movie back. Then there's the comedy. So the comedy is something I think you'd expect from a Taika kind of film. And, it's tough because I've seen things online where it's like, look, this is supposed to be an enjoyable film. Like, you're not expecting groundbreaking cinema, I guess, but like, I expect like a put together film. And actually that's another issue we'll talk about with this movie. But he has a history, a very clear history, at least in Thor movies, of ruining emotional scenes. And really, Marvel has this same problem, but he is like times 11 with this, where he can't let an emotional scene play out. Now, when I said Natalie Portman, or her Thor, she has like 2 or 3 like emotionally like really good scenes. That's how many scenes there are in the entire film. Maybe like 1 or 2 more with like gore. I would say I could probably cap it at 5 or so scenes, literal scenes in the entire film that they let play out without a joke stopping it. Now, again, that's been a thing. I mean, I think people are realizing that with Marvel movies where it's like, can you let an emotional scene play out for once? Like, can we do that? Now, yes, it doesn't happen in every single movie. There are plenty of emotional scenes throughout Marvel, history. But, specifically when you look at Ragnarok and now you look at this, again, this is why I say this movie is not even close to being as good as Ragnarok. Ragnarok is a lot better. This one really dials it up to an 11 where you can't feel anything besides a handful of scenes, literally one handful, 5 or less. Every other scene, if they try to go for something serious, it will immediately be stopped by a joke. They will not let it go. Okay, if that happens a couple times, fine. You'd be, oh, that's the director, whatever. But it happens every single time. And it becomes very noticeable where it's like, oh, this is an emotional scene. Oh, it's ruined. It's ruined. Now, maybe the joke's funny. Like, it's tough. Like, I don't want it to come across the wrong way or me describing it the wrong way. Like, sometimes the jokes will be funny. But the thing is, I don't know. Then I kind of sit back. I take a couple steps back and I say, all right, I laughed or I didn't laugh, whichever scene it was. But thinking about it, like, okay, well, would it have been better? Like, yes, it got a cheap laugh from people, all right? It got a cheap laugh. But would it have been better to let it play out, to let the scene play out? Would that have been a better scene without the and I think, yes, for a lot of those scenes, I think they would have been better off without the joke at the end, okay? And that's just my opinion. Maybe the comedy and people laughing, they're like, well, we got the joke at the end of the scene, so it's fine. I don't look at it like that. I say, okay, well, yeah, maybe I laughed at it, but I think the scene was hurt by that joke. I think it still could have been a better scene if they didn't have that joke. The last thing I want to talk about, this truly is, this is a more structured review than I normally do. The final negative was, I guess, pacing / the cuts of this movie and location jumping. Remember, we talked about that earlier. This is one of the worst put together, literally, and I mean like cut together. You take one scene and you paste it to the next scene, and then you take the scene after. It's one of the worst ones I've seen in a Marvel movie, or really a lot of films that I've seen in a long time. There are some really, really weird scenes where it felt like he just kind of wanted them in, and they didn't really flow at all with the scene before or the scene after, but he put it in anyway. There's several that did that, where it almost felt like, my dad watches a lot of Seinfeld. You know how Seinfeld is like 30-second skits, basically? Like, they'll do one joke, and then it'll be like a really awkward cut, and it'll just go to another location with other characters. That's this movie. Now, maybe that works for Seinfeld. In fact, it does work. But it doesn't work, I think, with this film. There are some scenes, again, where it's like, it's a joke, it's 30, 40 seconds, and then there's a really awkward cut, and it goes into another scene that you think, okay, well, that scene we just watched did not need to go there, or it didn't need to be in the movie at all. That happens continuously in this film. Then you have kind of like, okay, so stepping back again, looking at it, the movie is so... It's simple. I guess I was going to say it's simple, but it's not. No, it really actually is simple. Like, one or two things happen. It leads the characters to go to one location, and then they get to the bad guy. And that's it. That's the entire... This film, like, tries to move... I guess, okay, here's probably why it feels like this, all right? Because it cuts so much, because there's so many scenes of these comedy things, and but they're all still kind of in the same location, you actually are like, all right, well, the movie's like moving really quickly, or it's moving around really quickly. But then you take a couple steps back and you say, well, these are all supposed to be happening in like rooms like next to each other, or like locations that are right there. Then when you think about it, you say, oh man, they're only in like 3 locations the entire... Now, yes, they're in a couple more than 3, but it feels like, and they're really centered on only like 3 locations the entire film. It just feels odd. And I don't want to go into spoilers. We've gone this long without spoilers, but truly, it's like, you have something happen in the beginning, you get your character origin stuff, you have something happen with gore that sets the movie going, which actually takes quite a while to get to like, well, why is this movie happening? What's the point of the movie? It actually takes like, oh my god, 25, 30, 35 minutes to get to that scene. Then when you get to that scene, then there's like a pep talk kind of thing. There's an organization. They go to one location, then they fight gore, and then there's, let's say, like a 20-30 minute ending, kind of sequence, like the third act. So that's the movie. It just felt, I don't know, like it didn't feel very synchronized. It didn't feel very flowy to me. That's in my opinion. Now, and again, to me, it felt the most like disjointed of any, and I didn't watch Eternals, so like I know Eternals is probably garbage to a lot of people. It probably would be for me too, but I haven't watched it, so I can't really compare it to Eternals. But I watched Shang-Chi. I actually like Shang-Chi. Black Widow was kind of a hot mess. I don't know, like I don't know where to put Thor, in these things. I think Phase 4 of Marvel, it continues to be very, very confused. It continues to be very inconsistent. It's got no idea what it's doing. For every good movie, you have a bad movie. But you know what? Like I said this on Twitter, like I guess I enjoyed it overall. For all its negatives, like I laughed, I had somewhat fun. Like I don't want to say like I had a blast, because I really didn't. I walked out of the movie and I was talking more negatively about it than positively, but I didn't feel like it was a garbage movie. Yeah, it was just, I don't know. It maybe it's my age catching up. I just turned 26. I don't feel much. Maybe it's recent Marvel. I don't feel much leaving these Marvel movies. This movie was like, that's okay. I'll never watch this. I really don't care to ever watch this movie again. Maybe like the gore scene specifically, but that's kind of it. Like I don't see why I would ever watch this movie again. And I felt that way for a lot of the last 2-3 years of Marvel movies. I'll watch it. They'll be fine. It'll be okay. Like those words will keep coming up, and I won't watch them more than one time, and then I guess I go see the next one. So I guess I'm still there, but I'm hanging on by like a thread. Like they don't have me, by the collar, by the neck. They have me like by my pinky finger, holding on to Marvel right now. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you guys are subscribed, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.